Hi, my name is Keith, and I'm going to tell you guys a story. So I was hit by a car back in 2016 as a pedestrian, and I suffered from a brain injury. During that time, I was admitted to the hospital, and I've been seeing doctors nonstop ever since. During that time, I had the brain injury and I had memory issues, and I couldn't remember what I ate for breakfast, what I watched for TV, who I seen, or whatever it was. But my underlying issue was a brain injury. I was diagnosed with epilepsy and seizures. My driving privileges were restricted for 5 years, and I had a social worker who assisted me as well throughout this transition. During that time, I had several doctors fraudulently bill my insurance because I wasn't in the best of the mental state in order to know what was going on. They billed my insurance for more than, I don't know, maybe 50, 60,000, maybe it was more than that. From that point, my insurance company, which covered everything during that time, stopped all payments on everything. I couldn't get prescriptions, I couldn't get the services that I needed or anything because these doctors fraudulently used my insurance and it had to be investigated. From that point, they told me I was having epilepsy, and for 4 to 5 years I was taking medications for epilepsy. I switched to probably more than 7 different epilepsy medications, not including the other medications I was on for the brain injury that I had. The epilepsy medications, one of them it was called Topiramate, and my vision deteriorated, and I had to see a neuro-ophthalmologist, and my vision hasn't been the same ever since. Another medication I took, it was called Vimpat. I had black and white dots that occurred over my entire body, seizure medication, and I was told if you ever receive a rash from a seizure medication, go to the emergency room immediately. It's the last thing that you want when taking a seizure medication. I was on another seizure medication. It's called lamotrigine, and lamotrigine made me act crazy. It made me super aggressive. It made me want to fight. It made me angry. It made me want to wring necks. And my doctors tried to force me to go into a day program or like a mental health institution for X amount of time so they could evaluate me. And then they asked me to be there for 8 hours out of the day. I refused. My mother was the one who called. They insisted that I come, and I told them that it was my right and I choose not to go, and you cannot force me to go. I have my own guardianship. No one has guardianship over me, so they were literally trying to force me. From that point, with the seizure medications, my doctor, and I forgot about this part, my doctor told me that the memory issues that I was having was from seizures, not from a brain injury. So they falsely diagnosed me in order to bill more money, in order to bill fraudulently on my insurance, which affected me. It made me suffer and not have health care for a certain amount of time because of what the doctors did. The seizure medications, I couldn't drive for 5 years. I had to go through speech therapy, brain injury programs, all of these other things. But my doctor originally told me that the issues that I had with memory were seizures, and they were not seizures. I have a new doctor now. I've seen several doctors during that time, and it is confirmed that I am not having seizures, that I have memory issues. My doctor told me every time that I have a seizure to let them know. Every time I couldn't remember, I thought that I had a seizure. So each time I lost memory, I would let them know that I was having a seizure. In fact, those memory issues weren't seizures, they were memory issues. So I was taking medications and I wasn't able to drive for 5 years because of these seizure medications that I wasn't supposed to take. And now I'm currently fighting. Now I'm fighting those doctors. Now I'm fighting the insurance company, and I've been fighting for 4 years. 4 years I've been fighting these doctors and insurance companies because my information was fraudulently used, because I was used, because I didn't know what was going on, because I had a brain injury. I was naive. I was not knowing. I was taken advantage of because of my lack of knowledge and because I had a brain injury. And I'm still fighting to this day.
And we're fighting with him. That's right. That's right. And God sent him. He's an angel. That's right. And he ain't going nowhere.
What he had, what they did to him was fictitious disorder symptoms. It's a Munchausen's, a form of Munchausen's that doctors and professionals use to commit tax fraud or just to torture human beings for their own pleasure. So
I'd like to say something about Easter seals. When they got Jamin as the guardianship, that was fraud. That was fraud. It was illegal. And the only reason they got him was because I wanted Jamin and his mother, the family wanted him out of Milwaukee County mental health because they were drugging him, and all they needed to do was send him to rehab, and they kept him for 4 years. It was hell on earth. And finally I called the tax fraud division, Jim Felby, back in 2011, and I told him what was going on, and he called Milwaukee County Mental Health and talked to Jennifer Bergeson, and he called me back and he said he told her, why aren't you letting Jamin go to rehab? And she said, well, he can go to rehab when he gets out. And he said, well, when are you going to let him out? Well, within, I would say, a couple days, they shipped him off to Easter seals. What about the mother? What about brothers, sisters, a grandma? We would have taken him. Why did Easter seals do that? Therefore, they stole that guardianship, and they've had him ever since like 2011. And I found out a year later, I found papers where Milwaukee County Mental Health was being audited. They were being audited by tax fraud, and that's why they got rid of him, because they didn't want any more trouble. And I have all the papers on all of this, all of it.
Now, when Jamin was first in his accident, I went and an attorney drew up all the papers for guardianship over Jamin so his family could protect him. The doctor at the time thought Jamin was doing so well that he didn't need it, so we dropped it. And then when I could see what they were doing to my son, and I went to start it again, but this time I didn't have money for an attorney, so I went to the legal blank company and I did all the paperwork, and I had to go to Milwaukee Mental Health to have it notarized because I couldn't take my son with me. They wouldn't let him go to a notary to file these papers properly. They thwarted my efforts. They came out and they told me, we've been instructed not to help you. Dennis Partel, the attorney for Milwaukee Mental Health, he told them, what are you doing? You can't do this to the mother. This is illegal. You're thwarting her efforts. They did it anyway. This is fraud. There's no money in healing. And now my son was sexually assaulted at Mendota Mental Health on September 1st of last year. Nothing was done. Nothing was investigated. And I'll tell you why. Because everybody was paid off. There's $66 million that was going to be given to Mendota for the Lincoln Hills children to go to Mendota. And a sexual assault in Mendota would not have helped them get their $66 million. It would have raised a lot of questions. Well, everything was a cover-up. It's still a cover-up. It's still paid off. They tortured him. They beat him. They starved him. He had to drink his urine, and when there was no more urine and they beat him so bad there was blood all over the floor when they were dragging his body out, he took his hand and he cupped it just to get something to drink, his own blood from his own head. And this is what's going on in these mental hospitals. Sexually assaulted, beaten, starved. He's on so much drugs from Odette Anderson, the doctor, that he's not just shaking, he is cracking. You can hear his body clacking. I think they're taking bets to see how long he'll live. I think they're surprised he's still breathing. She put him on Luvox. That is the same medication did you name the other medications that he's all on?
Gentin, Luvox, Depakote, propranolol, Prolexin, Zyprexa. Yeah,
it is attempted murder here. You can't be on all those things and live. You can't, and they know it. They know it, and this needs to be stopped. This needs to be stopped immediately. Immediately, because all lives, every human being matters. We all matter. I worked at Valhalla Cemetery, and I'll tell you, the Jurassic brothers, who are second generation morticians, told me how on all the group homes, that everything is coming up natural causes, and they were angry, and this was years ago. They were angry, and they said that they didn't die from natural causes. They were drugged to death. They died from an overdose of drugs. They're all overdose. Everybody knows what's going on, and this needs to stop. And then the families aren't even told that their loved ones died. I had to take people to a grave. They didn't even know their son died. They said, we just saw him. We just saw him. We see him every week. Why wouldn't they tell us? Yeah, this has to be stopped. Easter seals, everything that's going on here, this needs to stop. And I urge all of you on Netflix, it's called I Care a Lot. It will bring you up to speed of what they are doing to people, especially old people. They're cherry picking wealthy old people who don't have family. Watch in horror what's going on.
Yeah. Taxpayers, wake up. Your money's going down the drain. They're fooling you.
America, wake up.
Yeah, America.
Because it could be you. It could be you next. It could be your child next.
Yes.
You just don't realize what legally they can do to you.
Yes, they'll take everything from you and your loved one's life. They don't care, and they'll call it, like she said, natural causes. Baloney. This has got to end. We need people to speak up against big pharma, Easter seals, and doctors. Dr. Odette Anderson, she belongs in a mental institution because this is not normal.
She belongs in prison.
And well, yeah, of course, a mental
Well-
institution. That'll put her in prison, just like people that are in there now that they're making money off of.
Look, bottom line, I need your help. I've gone to the governor. I've gone to everybody. No
Lawyers.
one will do anything. People are
That's
paid
right.
off. This is just too big.
That's
Once it gets this big, it's just like
It's too much trouble.
it's too much.
Yeah.
It's just too much for them.
We would rather have a car accident case. Sorry. Maybe if you could find another attorney.
Or if you have $50,000,
Oh, yeah. Even then, you don't know if they're going to take it and run.
we need help. We need help. We need help.
That's right.
And we are fighting.
That's right.
We are fighting, and we will not stop fighting.
That's
until
right.
these things
We will
resolve.
not.
We will
God
not
bless
stop
Israel.
fighting.
My new angel.
It continues to go on.
My new angel, Keith. You go.
Sexual assault for those who have mental diseases or for those who are elderly or unable to take care of themselves. It happens on a regular basis.
He was
I may
sexually
not-
assaulted. He was sexually assaulted.
I may not look like it, but I did have a brain injury. I was worse off 5 years ago.
Uh-huh.
During that time,
They heal.
I went to a Georgia hospital within Atlanta, Georgia, and then I was sexually assaulted inside an ambulance.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, I was chained to a bed, literally chains and handcuffs, and they wouldn't release me. When I said what happened, people didn't believe
I
me.
know they're calling
Let 'em
Jamin
talk.
a liar.
They wouldn't believe me, they wouldn't release me. The only reason how they released me was because I was going to school to be a nurse at one point in time, and I knew the exact words to say.
Yeah.
And I told the doctor, release me. I am of sound mind and I'm cognizant. I am leaving AMA today and there is nothing you can do to stop me. Release me from these chains. And they released me.
Yeah.
If I would have never said those words, I would have not been released. They would have put me through the wire. I would have had to go through the system. I would have had to
The
do all these
system.
different things. But they released me because I knew the knowledge and what to say.
See, when they do evaluation on Jamin, they got him so drugged. They say, well, he can't pass the evaluation.
Who
Well,
could pass the
could?
evaluation?
Who could?
Who could
It's
if you're on
rigged.
7
It's
medications?
all rigged. It's
You're on
all
7
rigged.
medications.
Yeah. And they cause problems in his throat, so they have him on a swallowing precaution because of the drug, Zyprexa, and so they grind up his food. And if he even gets food, he's fortunate because they punish him with food. They punish him. There's no toilets
They
in his
told
room. I'm
him
talking.
this can
There's
stop
no-
at any time.
There is no toilets or sinks or anything in the room. They have to be at the mercy of the guards, and they have to use a different bathroom. They have to drink out of the bubbler, which they pour their urinals in the bubbler, because these men have no place else to go if the guards don't open up the doors. And if Jamin has to go to the bathroom, they tell him to SHIT in his pants. Oh yeah, this is going on in Mendota, and they want the Lincoln Hills and the Copper Lake kids to come
Jamin
there.
told me that people are being sexually assaulted at night, the ones that are really drugged and out of it, all the time. All the time this is happening. This has to stop.
And there's nothing, if they don't want to find the film, they don't have to. But they know that there's film footage for Jamin's sexual assault on September 1st, 2020, last month. Nothing's being done, and the police in Madison want to know why not. Well, we found out. $66 million.
You can pay off a
reason.
lot of people with
Sexual
$66
assault.
million.
Yes, that's right. And so now they got their money from the taxpayers of Wisconsin, and now we're exposing what's going on, because families, you don't want your children there from Lincoln Hills. You don't want your children there from Copper Lake, because if they can't take care of the ones that are in there, what's going to happen to your children? Yeah, what's going to happen?
It's not just the children. It's
My
the
little
elderly
boy.
as well.
That is my little
The
boy.
elderly
This
as
is him as a
well.
man.
It's not just the children.
After the
No,
accident,
it's not the children. They're
preparing to start a band on stage.
Take a kid out of the
But this is my little boy, my little boy. And you know what the nurse said to him who facilitated the sexual assault? After he was beaten and tortured, she told him, this can end at any time, Jamin. All you gotta do is say it didn't happen. I'm pleading to you as a mom. Help me, help me, help me. Help me help others. Help me. And that's all I have to say. Thank you, and God bless you for your time. Share this with everyone. Thank you.